Hello everyone! So in this video I want to talk about the word, the universe, about God, about water and frequency and how they're all related to one another. But before I get started, I want to say please visit my website. I do dream interpretation. It's very good for if you want to understand your unconscious, if you want to understand your dreams. I can really help you. It's some kind of psychotherapy. And please leave your email so I can stay in touch with you. Also soon I will do a webinar, so please keep an eye on that. I will announce it on social media, on Instagram. I have two Instagram pages, Literature World 1 and in.dreams.nl. So I will announce it there. So keep an eye on that. So yeah, let's get started. There is this word that people often talk about, and it's the word universe. They always say like, oh, the universe this and the universe that, and the universe gives you this and the universe. And I'm like, okay, universe and God, but like, what is the universe actually? Universe actually means one word, universe. And if we look at chapter 1 of John in the New Testament, it says, in the beginning there was the Word, and the Word was with God. And the Word was God. And God created everything. So that's interesting because God is the Word. And also later it says that the Word became flesh and it lived among us. So then they mean Jesus. So that means that Jesus is the Word, so Jesus is God. But anyway, the Word, that is very interesting because the Word is God. Then in Genesis it says, the whole Bible starts with God speaking everything into existence. He says, let there be light, and there was light, and it was good. So that is interesting because everything God says is true. He speaks everything into existence. And this is also something we can see in Mesopotamian mythology with Marduk, who was a god that everything that he said was true. And here we can see actually the power of words. And so the universe, the words, and words are extremely powerful. And this we can also see, and this is really interesting because here is the connection to water. Because there's this experiment with rice and water, and you probably heard it, but if you never heard it before, it's really interesting. So there is this experiment in which you have 3 beakers filled with rice and water, and the water is higher than the rice. The rice is completely covered. And then to the first beaker, they said all these loving words like, oh, you're beautiful, I love you, thank you for being here. And the second beaker, they said very mean words like, you're so ugly, I hate you, things like that. And the third beaker, they completely ignored. And after a while of saying this, like very often, then the first beaker with the love beaker, it was completely fine, nothing wrong with it. The second beaker, it turned completely black. Or well, the rice actually, the rice in it turned completely black. And then the third beaker that was ignored, there the rice was starting to rot. And so here we can see that these words actually have an effect on water, actually, because that's what it is. That's interesting because everything that lives contains water. So water is more or less the essence of life itself, not of conscience, but of life itself. So a plant, I think a plant doesn't have a conscience, I'm pretty sure of that, but the plant lives. No matter what, the plant lives. If you stop watering it, then it dies. It's as simple as that. Stone, like a rock, doesn't live. You don't have to water it. It doesn't contain water, but it also doesn't live. It can also not die. A rock is just there, but a plant can die and humans can die. And so as long as we contain water, we live. And so that is why water is the essence of life. It's also, people believed that first there was water, the primordial waters, and water is the essence of life, the essence of everything. That's where everything started. Like with the womb, life starts in the womb where there is water. And so, as we can see in the experiment, when you speak words, they have an effect on everything that lives, everything that contains water. And so that is the thing also with God. That is the thing with the universe. It's the word. And everything God says, it comes into existence. He spoke the world into existence, which is very beautiful. But also, there is one thing I am a little bit confused by, because if we take Genesis, the first words, I'm going to read probably a part that you already know, but the very first chapter of how God spoke the universe into existence, or maybe you could say God is the universe, since God is the word and universe means the word. But anyway, okay. When God began to create the heaven and the earth being unformed and void, with darkness over the surface of the deep and wind from God sweeping over the water, God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. God saw that the light was good, and God separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening and there was morning, a first day. So it says here, God sweeping over the water. It doesn't say God created the water. So we can assume the water was already there. And then it says, God said, "Let there be an expanse in the midst of the water, that it may separate water from water." God made the expanse, and it separated the water which was below the expanse from the water which was above the expanse. And it was so. God called the expanse sky, and there was evening and there was morning, a second day. So again, the water was already there. So that's really interesting. But then in chapter 1 of John in the New Testament, it says that God created everything. So then you could assume, okay, so he also created the water. And here, the first line of the Bible says, when God began to create the heaven and the earth. So that is where Genesis starts, the creation of heaven and earth. So the water was already there, but it doesn't say who was there first, God or the water. So you might wonder, like, okay, but what does it matter? Like, who was there first, chicken or egg? Because it is some kind of chicken or egg story. But I think in a philosophical sense, it is really interesting because God is conscience. Well, God is a lot of things, but among other things, he is conscience. He is the light. And water is actually matter. That's why water is feminine, because it is like matter, mother. It's the feminine, it's life. It's where life starts. Life starts in the womb. And so then the water is the unknown, is chaos, like I explained in other videos, but is the feminine, it is life. And then God, he is conscience, he is the spiritual, he is the masculine. That's why God is a he. God is masculine. That's why it's called the Lord, because it's conscience. So yeah, we got conscience and life, God and water. So that is, to me, very interesting. But let's continue more about how they come together, how the word and the sound affects water, how does words but also music affects us. So as you can see, if you put salt or sand on a table and you make that table vibrate by a certain frequency, then beautiful patterns are being created by that. And so with different frequencies, there are different patterns. And there is such a thing as a harmonic frequency and a disharmonic frequency. That's why there is such a thing as beautiful music and ugly music. And yes, that is objective, because you can actually see it right here. You can see that there is an actual pattern when it vibrates on an harmonic frequency. But when there is a disharmonic frequency, there is no such thing. There's no pattern. And this we can also see how water crystallizes when it freezes. When the water is being exposed to beautiful frequencies, then the water changes into beautiful crystals. But when the water is kind of damaged by the wrong frequencies, then also when they freeze, then there won't be such beautiful crystals. There won't be beautiful patterns. So there is such a thing as sacred geometry. This is the creation of God. This is how everything works together in harmony. It's math. It's what we see in nature with these beautiful patterns. For example, from a pine cone or a flower, there are always these patterns. We see the patterns, like I said before, in snowflakes, and it's beautiful. But it's beautiful as long as the water that is in it, the essence of life, is being exposed to harmonic words and sounds. But then again, back to the rice experiment, when you take away the beauty and the harmony of it, and you only give it disharmonic tones and ugly words, then it will start to rot. And this is also what happens to people. This is also what happens to yourself. Your words are important. The words you talk to other people and the words you talk to yourself are important because they are effective. And that is also why praying works. And I always thought that, like, praying, like, what does it matter, you know? Like, I thought that praying wouldn't work. But since February, I started to pray on a serious note, and it works. It really works. So be conscious of your words, the words you utter to yourself and to others. And to finish this video, I want to show you another video actually that explains about frequencies and how it is connected to the sacred geometry of the universe, the Word, God.
If you only knew the magnificence of the 3, 6, and 9, then you would have a key to the universe. We have been left the method of counting and measurement, and the importance of dividing a unit by 12 seems to be the main rule given that has been adopted by humanity. Here are some of the ways that I found 12 to be an important number. 12 months of the year, 12 hours of a clock, 12 inches to the foot, 12 apostles of Christ, 12 constellations of the zodiac, 12 tribes of Israel, 12 knights of the round table, and there's much more. What happens when you divide today's music standard of A 440 Hz by 12? 440 Hz divided by 12 equals
36.66666666666667.
So what happens when you divide A 432 Hz, known as Verdi's A, an alternative tuning that is mathematically consistent with the universe, by 12? 432 Hz divided by 12 equals just 36. 3 plus 6 equals 9. 432 Hz equals 369. There are two ways of expressing the same thing. Next, let's look further into how the 432 Hz frequency is in time itself. Is our number system and method of timekeeping entirely based on 432 Hz, 9-base mathematics? How many seconds are in 12 hours? 43,200. That's 432. Divide or multiply a whole unit by 12. So 60 seconds times 12 equals 43,200 seconds. 36 times 12 equals 432. 36.666 times 12 equals 440. Interesting, isn't it? They are all related. They are perfect musical overtones of one another. There is a theory that the change from 432 Hz to 440 Hz was dictated by Nazi propaganda minister Joseph Goebbels. Apparently, he used it to make people think and feel a certain manner, and to make them a prisoner of their own consciousness. In a paper entitled Musical Cult Control, Dr. Leonard Horowitz writes, "The music industry features this imposed frequency that is herding populations into greater aggression, psychosocial agitation, and emotional distress, predisposing people to physical illness. Music based on 432 Hz transmits beneficial healing energy because it is a pure tone of math fundamental to nature. Classical music such as Beethoven was created using 432 Hz, and research shows that this type of music helps plants grow faster and healthier. 432 Hz is a harmonic of light frequency. It speaks and resonates directly with our cells. All cells communicate with each other via infrared light. So imagine, when they receive music in 432 Hz, they are in joy,